So, number one reason why doing these giveaways is so important to me is my mom. So my mom, she passed away April 26th of 2019. So almost 5 years ago, which is kind of hard to believe that it's been that long, half a decade almost, which is that's even wild. I haven't even thought about it. It's half a decade almost, but it'll be 5 years this April, so this month, and uh, I saw her struggle with a lot of health issues growing up, a ton. She was dealing with diabetes, high blood pressure, heart issues. There were multiple times where she had kind of messaged me about like, hey, how do I get more fiber in and things like that. This was as I was kind of going through grad school, so I was kind of new to the nutrition side of things. So I didn't know a ton, but she would message me here and there of how to like get more fiber in to help manage her diabetes and stuff a little bit more. But as I was like going through grad school, she ended up also dealing with osteoporosis. And it was pretty bad to where she actually, believe it or not, she didn't even fall, but she somehow ended up fracturing her femur and not even really knowing it. She was just having a lot of pain in that area and ended up getting it checked out, and her femur was broken. So she ended up having to be in a wheelchair because of that, and she was in a wheelchair as they were trying to allow her femur to repair itself and everything, and this was kind of towards the last probably like few years that she was living. She was in a wheelchair and couldn't move because that femur just was taking forever for her to heal, and because of that, because of the um, osteoporosis in the femur and not being able to walk, she was in the wheelchair, like I said, and very inactive then. Sitting in a wheelchair, wasn't able to move around much. She would experiment with like using her walker a little bit and try to walk as much as possible to kind of build that bone mineral density up, because that's one thing that inactivity leads to is low bone mineral density, which is why also I'm so adamant regarding staying active, especially resistance training, lifting weights. That's one of the best ways to improve bone mineral density. So you have a less chance of dealing with osteopenia, osteoporosis, and so on, and building that bone mineral density up. Because our peak bone mineral density, especially for women, is usually in their like mid 20s. Then afterwards, it actually just most people continuously decreases your bone mineral density because of different changes in hormones, especially once you hit menopause. So having that resistance training in there is so important to prevent your bones from losing its bone mineral density. And you could even maybe potentially increase that bone mineral density from lifting weights, but even just preventing the decrease of it is huge. But she was in this wheelchair for the last like few years of her life, and couldn't really move, was very inactive. And I don't know if I've ever really talked about like how she passed. I know I've mentioned that it was kind of an accident here or there, an accident type thing. It was unexpected, um, and so I guess I'll kind of roughly describe on like how it all happened, so you kind of understand the story a little bit more. But she had this broken femur, which caused her to be inactive. She was in a wheelchair for the past few years of her life, and with that, um, she ended up having a lot of kind of the last like week or so before she passed, she was having a lot of um, pain kind of in her chest, in her rib cage area. And she got it checked out a couple of times, went to the ER, and they initially thought it was, I believe, some type of pneumonia. She always like really struggled with allergies, struggled with her breathing. She had really bad asthma, so they were thinking all this pressure, all of this pain that she was kind of feeling in that area was because of that. And so they gave her medication, I believe, some type of steroid to kind of treat that. And that pain was still kind of persisting over these next like day or two, I believe. So she ended up going back in again, and they were trying to figure out what was going on and everything. And there were some tests, I believe, that they were going to do that they couldn't actually quite do as efficiently because of her size too, and her just being more overweight. So it was taking longer to figure out exactly what was going on and why she was feeling this pain and everything, why she was struggling to breathe and all of this. And eventually, long story short, what ended up happening was she had some type of bowel obstruction, and that led to her colon being perforated. And if you don't know what that means, essentially it means, simple terms, a hole basically opening up in your colon. So all of the mass in your colon that normally you would expose through waste, through going to the bathroom, comes out into your bloodstream and can cause a huge total body infection. And that's basically what happened. And she ended up going septic. And then, I got a call that morning that, things were getting worse and that they were going to need to do an emergency surgery to open things up and figure out what was going on. And before they even got a chance to do the surgery, her heart ended up stopping, and they tried to do CPR multiple times and it just didn't work. So that's kind of the short story of how she passed. But I can't help but think, you know, there people always say there's a reason why things happen the way they happen. So, we can't go back and think, oh, if she would have done this or if her lifestyle would have been different, this and that. But, by staying active, by taking care of your body more, she could have prevented maybe some of these issues of the osteoporosis, the osteopenia, could have maybe prevented the bone fracture to begin with. And a lot of times, just being so inactive, our bowels actually don't digest things as well. Like, one thing that actually helps to speed up digestion a little bit and help that process out, get things flowing, is just actively like moving around. So if you're sitting around in one spot all day for multiple days in a row, it is harder for things to just naturally move through your digestive tract. So maybe that caused a bowel obstruction. And there's a lot of what ifs, right? And nobody can say exactly this happened because of that. But I also think if if she was in better health and would have taken better care of her health, then maybe the situation could have looked differently, right? So that is like one reason why I do this, is because I know just how these little things can add up, and how, if you aren't taking care of your health, how it could really change your life, and maybe in some ways impact situations to where your life might be shortened. It might be taken away a lot sooner than what it should have been. Um, and one thing I want to like make sure that I just say here when I'm talking about these stories with my mom, my dad, and everything, I love them so much, and I love everything that they've done for me. And I know I talk about their health issues in this, and I think I used to be a little irritated at them, honestly, because I wish they would have just taken better care of their health. But now I don't hold that kind of resentment or anything. Um, I know they did their best with the information they had, and yeah, they maybe could have made better decisions and stuff. But sometimes you don't have an opportunity to get the information you need to know how much these things can really impact you. Or maybe somebody tells you, your doctor, but you just don't hear it. And that's another big reason why I do all this, why I go live in this Facebook group every week, why I do my podcast, why I give these things away for free sometimes or at a discounted rate, is because I want to put myself out there and make sure that, if you are struggling with your health or your weight, you feel like you're heard, and you feel like, oh, this person gets it. This person understands where I'm coming from, can meet me where I'm at, and help me improve from there. In a way, maybe my parents didn't find that person to help them, or maybe they didn't have access to them, right? And that's like one beauty of social media. Social media can be terrible in so many ways, with all the wrong messaging out there, the negative messaging, but it can be really good to where it can help me connect with you where you might be a couple hours away, a few hours away, maybe even across the states or across the country or in a different country. But we can connect, and you can listen to this information and actually learn how to do it the right way. So I just wanted to like put that out there, that this isn't any way for me to like bash my parents, because I love them so much, and every single day I wish they were still here. But that's just the reality of like where they were and what happened, and the things that I think could have really maybe even saved their life or extended their life for even longer. So that's one reason, is my mom, why like I do these things and why this is so important to me. Reason number two is my dad. And my dad, similar boat, had a lot of health issues growing up. He also was was a big smoker when he was younger. He smoked for a long period of time before he met my mom. Once he met my mom, they got married and everything. He actually just completely stopped because she hated it. But he smoked, which then definitely did not help in terms of his heart issues too. But he had a lot of heart issues. Throughout his life, and even when I was born, even at a young age, he had his first heart attack actually before I was even born. He had his first heart attack at 38 years old, and that was before I was born. And he's had a couple of heart attacks since then as I was growing up. But he passed 2021, September of 2021. So he passed a couple of years after my mom did, which we're coming up on almost like 2.5, getting close to 3 years that he's been passed, which is even crazy to think about too. And he had a lot of diabetes issues when I was a kid. I mean, I remember him checking his blood sugar all the time, talking about how it was high, insulin, all this stuff. And one thing that a lot of people don't realize is that uncontrolled diabetes, having constantly high blood sugar, puts a really big load on the kidneys. And down the road, can really cause some really bad kidney issues, possibly kidney failure, to where you need dialysis, which is basically where you have to be hooked up to a machine 3 times a week. They filter your blood out. It takes hours to do, but they filter all of your blood out, filter all of that extra waste that your kidneys aren't able to actually transfer out of your body anymore. But they filter all that waste out for you to basically act as your kidneys. They do that 3 times a week, takes pretty much half a day every single time you go. And that's where my dad ended up close, like about a year. Actually, it was probably even less than a year, probably like 6 months to a year before he passed. He ended up needing dialysis. And one thing about dialysis is not only is it a very exhausting process to go to an office and have to be hooked up to all these machines, get your blood filtered through for hours 3 times a week, but you also a lot of times lose a lot of protein through the blood during dialysis, which means you don't have as much protein in your system to rejuvenate or repair muscle mass or to keep the muscle mass that you have. Almost think about if you were to chronically eat a super low protein intake, you would end up losing muscle mass long term. And that's what happened with him. He went to dialysis. He ended up losing a lot of muscle long term. He was dealing with a lot of nausea, which then would make him not want to eat, which then would put him at a risk of low protein intake. As well, he got very weak. He lost a lot of muscle. He also was dealing with swallowing issues as well, which was not helping with the situation he was in, to where he could barely eat anything as well. So not only could he barely eat, but he also, because of the dialysis that he had to be on, because of his uncontrolled diabetes over the years, he ended up losing a lot of weight very quickly, losing a lot of muscle, and he couldn't even stand up for more than a couple of seconds on his own. Like getting him, there were a couple times I went and visited back home and helped take him to dialysis. There were a couple times we went fishing too before he passed, because that was one of his favorite things to do. And getting him out of his wheelchair into the car was, it was just, I don't know how to explain it, but so difficult, because it was pretty much, he was dead weight almost, because he didn't have like any strength left in his legs really. Even getting dressed, putting pants on, like he couldn't do himself. And that took such a big toll on him mentally, because if you knew my dad, he's like the last person that would ever want to bother somebody and ask them for help. Like he would sit there and suffer in silence forever before ever like asking for help. So that was so hard on him mentally. But also he was dealing with, the passing of my mom, right? I mean, he had been married to my mom, I believe it was 30 years or so around that time period. And she had been gone for a couple of years, and he had never thought that she would pass or die before him. So like him being stuck on this earth without her was also mentally just putting him down so much too. And, we got to a point where his weight loss got so extreme. He became so weak. He was constantly not being able to get any nutrients in, that we basically were at this standstill of, okay, either he's going to starve to death, or we need to have surgery to have a feeding tube placed so we can get some nutrients in him. And he went back and forth on this decision a lot of what he like wanted to do, like if he wanted to go through surgery because of the risks of surgery, or did he not want to do the surgery. And I don't know if he, I think he understood that he would have passed if he didn't have the surgery because of his low food intake. But I think there was, a little bit of hope of like maybe my swallowing will get better, or maybe this nodule will get better too, even if I don't have the surgery and I can actually eat. But he went back and forth with this decision, and they basically decided to schedule the surgery on Wednesday. And the Monday of that week, Monday night, um, he ended up passing away. And I had actually traveled to my hometown because I wanted to spend all Tuesday with him before the surgery because I knew, how much of a high risk it was. And I actually never got that opportunity to spend with him, which kills me sometimes to this day that I didn't. But um, his situation was another situation where, like, sure, his health issues, maybe he would have dealt with some of these anyway. But I think, and I think it's safe to say that, knowing how this uncontrolled diabetes long term really puts a strain on your kidneys, which then causes dialysis in so many people, I think it's safe to assume that if he would have had the knowledge or the coach with him or the person to help him live a healthier lifestyle, before he got so old, before those issues stacked up, before his diabetes got so out of control for so long, before those kidney issues came about, I think he would have had more time to his life. And I think about that all the time. And I can't help him any longer. I can't help my mom any longer, but I can help you. If you're listening to this, if you apply for the scholarship, I can help you. And third reason why I do this is my son now, which is kind of a new reason over the past 16 months, couple years since, obviously 9 months of my wife being pregnant, knowing, he was going to be here. But I want to be around on this earth longer for my son. I want to experience so much more with him. I want to be able to be more active. There were so many times where, like, I was a kid, and I'm the youngest in my family too, so I'm kind of like the baby. So like my parents, as I went through different stages of life, my parents were at their oldest compared to like my sisters maybe, but I'm sure my sisters could even relate to some of this too. But there were periods where, like, I wanted to be active, I wanted to go outside, I wanted to play, and like I noticed my mom or my dad just sitting around more, not being able to be as active, whether it was because they were, out of breath or out of shape or just tired from carrying around so much excess weight all the time that wasn't like helpful for them, right? It's not like they were carrying around extra muscle mass. It was extra weight that was just weighing them down. And I remember also like worrying about their health growing up. And I don't want my son to worry about my health. Obviously, we all will have a time where we get older, and we can't defeat father time permanently. But I don't want my kid to be in elementary school, or even in middle school, or even in high school, thinking like, "Am I going to make it?" excuse me, to his graduation? Am I going to make it to his wedding? And those were all real thoughts that I had growing up. Not necessarily about my mom, because hers was a little bit more sudden, her death, but I definitely had those thoughts with my dad. When I was younger, I don't remember the exact age, but I remember staying at like a friend's house overnight because he was in the hospital having open heart surgery. And I remember there were times in high school where he would have heart procedures, get stents put in because there were signs that he may have had a heart attack or, was close to it or whatever. And like that worried me that like I literally thought, okay, is he going to make it to my high school graduation? Okay, he made it. Awesome. Is he going to make it to my college graduation? Awesome, he made it there. Is he going to make it to my wedding or my grad school graduation? And I don't want my son or even like our other future kids, if and when we have more, I don't want them to have those worried thoughts about my health either. And I also want to have a deeper relationship with him. My parents, like, I had a good relationship with them, but I think there's just something that you feel differently with your parents once you get older and start to like have your own career, have your own job, deal with your own finances. Also, especially when you start to have your own kids, you really realize, wow, my parents really sacrificed a lot to give me the life that I had. And these are all things that like I started to um, really connect with them as I went through college and got towards the tail end of my college and just, became more mature, realized like, finances, just how much they really tried. Cause like I kind of mentioned in one of my lives a week or two ago about why I'm doing this scholarship too. But like we didn't grow up with a lot of money growing, as kids. And there were multiple Christmases where, like looked under the tree and there was a little bit of disappointment, as a kid, seeing not that many gifts under there. And I'm going to take a little drink because my throat's really dry. Okay. But seeing not that many gifts under the tree and then seeing or hearing about all these other kids and all the gifts that they've gotten. And there were definitely Christmases where there was a little bit of disappointment there. And it wasn't like anger or frustration towards my parents, but it was just like, I don't know, just like a little bit of sadness there. And as I've gotten older, I'm like, man, like things are expensive. Buying Christmas presents is expensive, and taking care of a child is expensive. And I just realized how much they sacrificed, to have three kids. And I think you develop a deeper relationship with your parents as you get older and you become an adult too. And it's not as much of like a parent child relationship anymore. It starts to become more of a kind of friendship. And there's like this mutual respect of like, I like so thankful for everything that you've done. Not that I wasn't thankful before. Like, I feel like I grew up as a really thankful kid, but it's just a different level, right? And you probably know what I mean. And I kind of got a little bit of that taken away from me with my parents, both dying so soon. Like now me having a kid, like I wish I could talk with them and be like I appreciate all of those dirty diapers you changed of mine. I appreciate you waking up so much in the middle of the night to feed me, all this stuff to comfort me. Those times where I would hold on, I gotta take another drink. Those times where I would fall asleep on the couch and wake up somehow in my bed. Like, thank you for carrying me to my bed at night. Um, and just all those things. And so I want to have that with my son and, our future kids. I want to be there long enough to where, like, when they're adults and they start to develop their own lives, like, we can have that. I mean, I really want to have that bond anyway as I grow up, but you probably know what I mean. When you get a little bit older, you start to really appreciate those things. And I want to be able to meet my grandchildren, my grandchildren. Like I never met my grandparents on my dad's side, and I only ever met my grandma on my mom's side. Because all three of them, my grandpa on my mom's side and both of my grandparents on my dad's side, both passed before I was born. And now Aiden, my son, and then any of our future kids we have, they're not going to meet my mom and dad. Like they're not going to meet their grandparents on that side. And I don't want that to happen like for me and their kids when they get older. Like I want to be able to be a granddad. And I mean, man, that's years down the road. So I do not want that to come soon. But like I want to be able to experience that for a long time. And I want to be able to play with my grandkids too. And I want my grandkids to feel like, their grandpa was able to really play with them too. And I also want my son and any other kids we have to grow up with healthy habits for themselves. Because if you can develop healthy habits for yourself, get in better shape, a healthy relationship with food, a healthy relationship with exercise, and teach your kids that that's a good way to live and that it doesn't have to be something super restrictive, it doesn't have to be something extreme, that it can be something that really benefits your life as a whole and keeps you around longer, then you can pass that on to your kids and they can live healthy lives. They can live longer lives and they can pass it on to their own kids. There's this quote that I've seen multiple times where it's like, oh, you would do anything for your kids. That's what you say. But would you get healthy for them? Would you take the leap and, really commit 6 months, a year, even 2 years to your health to get in better shape, to lose the weight in order for them to have much better, much healthier, much greater lives, whether it's through them being healthier then because you showed them the right way, or from you being around longer to help them benefit. Like if you can't help your kids' lives if you're not here, if you die early because you're not taking care of your health, you will not be here to help your kids through different situations that they might run into. And like that's the true test of, do you really care about your kids? Are you willing to put in the work, take the leap, and like I said, commit 6 months, a year to yourself, maybe even longer if required, to learn how to eat healthy, to learn how to exercise the right way, to learn how to lose the weight and keep it off the right way. If you can't do that for your kids, which usually, you're willing to die for them, then do you really want to get healthy as bad as you say you do? And then the fourth reason why I'm doing this giveaway is because of my old self. The person I was in 2012, 2013, before I looked in the mirror and decided I need to make a change. Back in 2012 in college, first year of college, I looked in the mirror one morning and I just didn't like who I was seeing. And I didn't even recognize the person, honestly. Like I was gaining weight. I was unhealthy. I wasn't living the way I thought I should be living. I was insecure with myself. I wasn't confident. And I knew I needed to make a change, or I was going to go down the path that my parents were going down. And like I said, it's no shade to them. I love them so much. They're always going to have a special place in my heart. But I saw the health issues they were dealing with, and I didn't want to have those myself. So that was the time period where I decided to make a change, was 2012, 2013. And I hated the way I looked in pictures at that point. I knew that I wasn't living the life that I wanted to live, or the life that I would be proud of living years down the road when I was on my deathbed. I didn't believe in myself. I didn't believe I could do hard things. And that might be the person that you feel like today. And like reading through a lot of your applications already, it sounds like that's who a lot of you feel like. Like you feel like you're in somebody's body that's not even really yourself. Like you don't feel like yourself. You don't feel like you're in your own skin. You feel insecure. You hate taking pictures. You stand in the back if you do take pictures with people. When it comes to family pictures, you're always the one behind the camera taking them of your kids, of your spouse, of your partner, of your husband, but you're not ever in them because you don't want people to see how you look. And you overall just like lack this confidence in yourself because you're not living the way you feel like you should be. And I want to help. I want to help that person because I relate so much to who you feel like or what you feel like in this moment, because that's who I was 12 years ago, 2012, 2013, before I made this change. And I want you to transform like I did. And I know it's so easy to be like, oh, I'm going to, wait for the perfect time or this or that. But it's like, if you don't start now, that time is just going to keep being delayed. Like there's never going to be a perfect time, a perfect chance to jump on something. You just have to do it. And like yourself 6 months from now, a year from now is going to thank you 100%. So those are the four big reasons why I do these giveaways: is to honor my mom, to honor my dad, to honor my son, I guess you could say, but also to help all of you who want to be healthy for your kids, honor your kids, and also for your current self and my old self, and to show you that there is a way to gain so much confidence along the way. I had a client message me this morning actually, and she's had a lot of friends join the group. They haven't joined coaching necessarily, but they've joined the group. And even just that, because she shared her journey on social media a little bit, like that made her feel so good, knowing that her pursuing this journey, benefiting her health, lit a spark in some people to at least join our free group here and start to think, okay, maybe I can actually see some results like that. Like she's starting to inspire some other people, and you can have that feeling too. Like you go on this journey and you start seeing results, staying consistent, following the plan, doing things the right way, and learning how to really take care of yourself and your body. You can walk away from this, or like experience throughout this journey, you feeling empowered and feeling like, wow, like I used to be someone who was so insecure about myself and didn't know what in the world I was doing. But now I'm seeing progress. I'm learning so much. I'm knowing what to do in the gym. I know what gets results, what doesn't. I'm starting to see results. I can start talking about those results, showing people my knowledge, what I've achieved. and inspiring other people and that trickling over. And that then, when you start to like embrace that and realize you can actually be a leader in these areas, your confidence just completely skyrockets and you become a new person and realize just how much more you're capable of. So those are the 4 reasons why I do this. So hopefully you have a little bit more backstory, especially if you're new, as to why I do these giveaways or why I even coach in general.